Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me is my go-to podcast compadre, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how's it going, buddy?
It's going wonderful this evening, Jimmy. This is Joe Lever here coming into you.
Yeah, you are, I guess.
Coming at you from the Critical Reviews remote headquarters.
Yes.
We are on deck for another wonderful podcast this evening.
Yes.
I ask that the audience members please buckle up, keep arms, legs, and appendages inside the vehicle at all times, and let's enjoy a good podcast.
Yeah.
Back to you, Jimmy.
Thank you. Also, flash photography, I wouldn't. It alters the homing signal, and that's not good. Oh, I'm sorry. You got me off topic there, thinking about Disney. Anyway, thank you for joining me, Joe, as always, and thank you guys for tuning in and listening. People watching. It sounds like people are like listening to this, like just audio version of it. So if you do like it, we could just do this the whole time, which might be a little much, and I'm sure that'll be fun too. Fix and post. Anyway, we're talking about the DC Fandome event that happened last weekend. As you can see with my Batman shirt, I almost wore this other shirt, Joe. That's the Many Moods of Batman, and it's just him again and again and again, angry, sad, happy. It's just all the same like thing. Which that's Batman, right? But we're just going to talk about a few of the major kind of reveals, things we saw. I will just tell you now, it won't be every last detail on these things. Like some things we'll probably gloss over, like the Black Adam thing. It's The Rock and stuff, but we didn't really see anything. It's like him talking over some CG stuff, and it wasn't. I was like, I want to see. Show me the movie. But anyway, I want to talk about.
That's contradictory. Normally we say trailer show too much.
Yeah, exactly. Now this time it's like, anyway.
I didn't see that, so that was just a teaser of The Rock kind of talking over.
It's like him in like some Egyptian pyramid that but it like zooms around this pyramid, and then like it like shows like the silhouette of The Rock just in like regular clothes, which is kind of weird. But you can't really see his face, and it's just like him talking. He's like, I've been waiting for this for a long time, and it's just him talking, and then they kind of show like a little backstory of like a. It'd be like before like a video game, but it's not a cinematic. It's like those images that move just slightly.
I see,
kind of thing. That's what came after it. It wasn't. There's not much to talk about. It's like Black Adam is coming. I just want to see it. Like I just want to see Black Adam. But
although that is kind of cool, kind of a wetting the palate kind of thing.
I guess, yeah. Well, they had to tell people that it's still happening. But yeah, I guess we can go over a few things like that first. Things that like didn't reveal as much, but. One thing I thought that was really interesting, Joe, is like the Flash movie. Remember, we've talked about this in the past. It's like the Flash has a director, then they lost a director, then they have a director, and they lost a director. It was like, oh my gosh, guys, just figure it out for Barry's mom's sake. But it sounds like not only are we getting Michael Keaton returning as Batman, because it seems like he's going to be going like throughout time and space and Flashpoint-ish stuff, but also, and they say this is going to be the last time we see him, Ben Affleck, Batfleck, coming back for one more round of Batman in the Flash movie. Now, I know a lot of people are kind of like, hey, Robert Pattinson is like the new, like, he's the new Batman. Forget the old Batman stuff. Joe's left me. That's okay. I can keep talking about this. But for me, personally, I liked Ben Affleck as Batman. I feel like between the stuff that happened, between Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, and all this stuff, he's had a lot of, like, personal issues and trauma, and then also Justice League was all over the place. But I don't know. I'm excited to see him return, even if it's just for a little bit, as Batman in this Flash movie. And if it goes well enough, there's no saying that he couldn't come back and do Batman again, and they can just like do diverging timelines. Because it's like with the new Joker movie, they could still make that universe Joker, but then also make another Joker. Like DC's cool with doing like there are 3 or 4 versions of our character, whereas Marvel's like there's one Captain America. You know what I mean? It's like there's one Iron Man. So I don't know, Joe, what do you think about Ben Affleck returning as Batman, even for just like a little bit? Who knows how long?
In what capacity, for what media?
Oh, it's for Flash. Sorry, you stepped away there for a second. It's for the Flash.
I mean, we've talked about before how he's out, and now Rob Pattinson is taking over, and it's tough. I mean, yeah, I'd like to see him in the movie alongside I forget his name. It's on the tip of my tongue. The Flash actor,
Ezra Miller.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be great. The problem is that I'm still going to feel so much disconnection with Batman moving forward. It's just going to be, I'm sure it'll eventually massage in or
Dovetail.
in a little. Yeah, it's just going to take some getting used to. But at first, it's going to be jarring, the switch.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
It's tough no matter how you look at it. But yeah, having him featured in that would be great.
Yeah.
Great. But it also might be a good way to insert Rob into the fold is not the main focus.
Sure.
But more of an injection and not a big piece of the puzzle for a soft introduction to kind of make that meld better.
Yeah.
I almost think that's the better way to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That way it's not like you just take off first step up the ladder is with Rob in his own starring role.
Yeah.
It'd be better if maybe he was more of a, what do you want to say, an accessory to a main character film.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, I hear what you mean. Well, I feel like they're still missing kind of a trick, and we'll get into the Batman trailer, but I feel like there's such a chance here to just be like, hey, you know what, Rob, you're going to be Dick Grayson. Batman's dead. You were Nightwing. You came to take over Batman's role in Gotham, and you were Nightwing beforehand, and that's like kind of transitioning you into that type of thing. But I also think it's something like with Spider-Man, where like if they keep making new Spider-Man, it'll always probably start with Peter Parker before they get to like Miles Morales or anything like that, because that name recognition is so high, where it's like, well, if it isn't Bruce Wayne, then I don't really care because it's not the actual real Batman. Like, I want like original recipe Batman. But yeah, like I said, DC seems totally cool with just being like, yeah, there's going to be 2 or 3 versions of these characters in multiple forms of our media all the time. Don't worry about it. Like, just kind of like, but people are smart. I think people have wisened up. You know, we've seen a lot of superhero stuff, and I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. But I'm just excited. I liked Ben Affleck. I think he did a good job as Batman. I just think, like, it was just he had weird stuff to work with, and I really wanted to see his standalone movie if it was going to be, like, actually the Batman, like, he's in Arkham, trapped with a bunch of, like, his, rogues gallery. I was like, oh, that'd be such a cool, like, just a crazy movie, just a one-off, like, he has to fight all of his rogues gallery in one night. It might be too much, but it could have been cool. But yeah, so yeah, that was another thing they talked about. So him returning along with Michael Keaton, kudos to that guy. The guy's been doing so much work, and I love seeing him like come back into comic books, like comic book movies, even though he's kind of been doing them a lot, but just like his return as like the Vulture and then Birdman, and now like this, it's just like, man, he's just swinging back around. He's a great actor. That's like one of the biggest things I want to see in that, I call it the Jared Leto movie, the Morbius movie, as I just want to see him in it. I'm just like, yeah, I want to see Michael Keaton in it, please. Because, like, I don't know how that movie's going to turn out.
Morbius, I wonder, when is that expected? I mean, with COVID and all.
I don't know. I thought it was this October, but maybe it got pushed. Probably got pushed.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, heck, that's only a month and a half out,
Yeah, that's true.
But that was a movie I was kind of excited for, like to see how they do that and how I think a movie like that has potential, but not to get sidetracked. But Morbius, I think that was a movie that was kind of on my radar with potential and kind of up my alley. I did like what you mentioned before about how instead of maybe, just doing that jarring transition to Rob Pattinson is now Batman just is. Yeah, I like that. Maybe they have Ben Affleck do a little bit of a spot, and they kind of give you a background on how Rob became, or Dick Grayson became Batman in a transition little, a little ode to the switch, so to speak, to make it actually make sense, instead of just, hey, Ben Affleck's no longer doing it, so here's Rob. I think that would be so cool to do it justice in that way, to make it work for their overall arcing storyline and everything fit and make sense, other than, it's almost like you take Robert Downey Jr. and you swap him out for a different guy to play Tony Stark. It's like, what?
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, compare it to that for a second. Iron Man being a staple character in the Marvel Universe. You can't tell me Batman isn't that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where I kind of have a qualm with it. And if you think about it in those terms, gosh, I would be just freaking horrible. If something like that were to happen in like the Iron Man situation, why should we be so accepting of it in this DC situation?
Sure. Well, I guess their thing was like, oh, it's a whole new universe. It's completely different. I just don't know how many. Yeah, I don't know how many of these they can do because like Joker, because it did so well, has its own universe kind of now. But that movie was set in the 80s, so you couldn't necessarily make that because you've seen a young Bruce Wayne in that. So I don't think that could be Robert Pattinson. I don't think in this one.
Exactly. And I'm almost like putting that as an outlier. Like that Joker movie doesn't really fall into any of this, which is fine because it was so different. But I just don't understand when you have something so successful, such as, Justice League wasn't necessarily successful. Some of the Man of Steel movies and the Batman vs. Superman, although people didn't like it, I mean, they were successful enough to still build upon.
Yeah.
And you had your characters set. People liked the casting and the people who were playing these characters. And then you have something that's as successful as Aquaman and Wonder Woman. Hello, are we just going to kind of... I mean, I know they're not just letting that stuff fade away. Obviously, they're doing sequels and everything. And Wonder Woman 1984 is coming. And,
yeah.
But why aren't you using that success and expanding upon it and growing that? Like you found something, utilize that experience and freaking make it happen. Come on, don't create a separate universe with another Batman. How many Batmans are we going to see and how many different renditions? It's like, do you want to have the success that Marvel's had and create some sort of crazy universe like they did? Or even something comparable?
Wow.
I would hope so.
Sure.
Like that's what the viewers want. That's what everybody wants to see, is DC to not necessarily compete. They can do their own thing, but create a universe that people are sucked into and they're excited to see the next installment, whether it's a new character or a returning, That is, I just don't get it.
Well, I wonder if there's something to it where, like, the Robert Pattinson stuff, they maybe signed him on for a ton of things. They'll see how this one plays out, and if it does well enough, then they could bring him into the fold as the new Batman. Because this Batman is in year 2 of Batman's kind of, like, his story, so there's always the chance that they could say, like, well, this is the Ben Affleck Batman, but he's younger, or something. Like, you can make it work, even if, Gotham is different, if his tech is different, if Alfred's different, you can still make it work. But you're right, it gets a little confusing, and, there's hopefully, a lot of us want to see Batman be with the Justice League again, and if they can't figure that out, I don't know. Like, it would be nice if, like, Ben was in a place where you could do both, or you could be like, hey, here's the Robert Pattinson. This is the more grounded, kind of straightforward, serious detective Batman. But then we also have Batman in space fighting alongside Wonder Woman and Superman and, part of the Justice League. Because you kind of hate to just like rip him away from everybody, like, and be like, you'll never work with them again. And it's like,
I mean, obviously the Justice League stuff was a little rushed, and I think it could have been put off for a while they build these separate characters and then culminate and bring them together for something. They tried to go extra big and they just didn't have the base or foundation set for it quite yet. I don't think it was horrible. I know the Zack Snyder cut is going to be released in like 3 parts on HBO Max or whatever.
Oh, 4 parts, an hour each.
Yeah, which is cool. I actually kind of want to see that. But like we're talking like Steppenwolf has a totally different appearance, which I actually dig. Like it looks good. All sorts of things. Young Darkseid gets shown off at one point.
What do you think? Do you like his look? The Omega symbol like in his chest?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate, and I like, and it looked good. I mean, I saw the still image, and then one short video moments where he was about to swing his scepter and hit the ground kind of thing. But it looked good. It really looked good. But that is one thing. I think the alternative Zack Snyder design for Steppenwolf is more. It's more because he's got kind of like more alien-esque armor and stuff. He doesn't look as. Not that Steppenwolf is hokey in the theatrical version.
Kind of hokey.
He was a little bit in comparison to this. The way they designed him for the Zack Snyder side of things looked more appropriate, and I prefer it.
Yeah.
If and albeit anyone can have their own opinion of it, but I prefer it. So
yeah,
I don't know. I got a little sidetracked there, but I don't know. I'm starting to get like the X-Men vibes. Eventually, I didn't give a crap about X-Men because it got so confusing and the timelines were all over the place. Granted, the characters didn't switch all the time. You always had Hugh Jackman in there and everything. And but you get that vibe from it where it gets so screwed up and like you don't know what universe you're watching half the time. Whereas X-Men, you didn't know what part of the timeline you were in. So it kind of exudes the same vibe and it drives me nuts. It's like I want them because I find so much enticing content from DC and they have a lot of really cool characters and possibilities and directions they can go. It really frustrates me that they don't capitalize on that and do something similar to create this universe like Marvel did. It just seems like such opportunity squandered.
Yeah, totally.
But
well, speaking, you're kind of talking about it before with Morbius, and now we're kind of circling with Batman. Maybe we should just talk about the Batman, just like the trailer we did get from it. We finally got to see it. Apparently, only 25% of this has been shot so far. And for people who haven't seen it, I just recommend if you hear us talking about this and you haven't looked it up yet, I'd recommend go checking that stuff out. But with what we're seeing here is we're getting, there's a few different villains, and the main one's going to be Riddler, which I think is a great way for them to start, just because that's like, if you're going to make world's greatest detective style Batman, then put him against somebody who's going to test that mental fortitude, as opposed to someone he can just kind of beat up. And you don't want to start with Joker, because Joker's kind of like your big bad. You don't just kind of open with Joker. But I think it looks good. I think it looks really nice. The only thing that I've got a problem with, the ears are like, I never know what to feel about Batman ears. I like the Christian Bale ones. Then I thought the Affleck ones were too short, but then I kind of liked them. These ones slope kind of weird towards the center. I don't know if we want to talk about the suit a little bit, because like, I know you're a big design guy, Joe. Like when you're looking at it in action, I think it still looks great. But it's just, we've seen a lot of Batman suits in the past couple of years. So I'm just always like, new Batman suit.
Yeah, I'm actually pulling it up as we talk to kind of revisit the look.
Yeah, get a feel for it. Apparently, it's very you could fight in it really well, and it's got gashes and stuff on it because it's like his original suit. It's got some nicks and some dents. Other things. All right with that. He's just been fighting crime, man. He doesn't have time to fix the suit. And he wears his eye makeup even after he takes off the mask, which is great. It makes him look like Winter Soldier. So how do you feel about it now that we see it in all of its like actual living glory?
I like it. I think it has a little bit more youth to it.
Yeah, for sure. Very young. Yeah.
So it makes sense. And, as Batman develops and stuff, his suit gets upgraded or changed. I mean, it's fine if it's not always exactly the same, but I don't know. They look good. I don't have any issues with them. I see how they're a little bit more aggressive looking, I guess you would say.
Yeah. It's the slope in the middle. Maybe I'm weird about that. I don't know. I just don't like the slope. But besides that, I think the trailer looks really good. Like I said, kind of back to basics. Not really over the top, and I think that's probably a good place for Batman to start off with, which is kind of the Ben Affleck movie we didn't get. We just kind of got Batman fighting Superman right away. It was like, look at you. Like, I want to see the transition. If you're going to do like killer Batman, like he's actually killing people, I want to see that transition. Like, I want to see like where he started off, 20 years ago in Gotham. And he's like, we can fight crime and we don't have to kill anybody. And then over time, he's like, you know what? I'm kind of done with these people. I'm just going to, bullets are fine. I'm going to use bullets. I am really interested to see this. And as a lot of people theorized, a lot of people didn't think Robert Pattinson was good for this role, but to kind of show off his physicality where he kind of beats up that goon at the end and he does a pretty thorough job. I never questioned that. I know people are kind of like, oh, he's from Twilight and all this stuff. That's one role, like he's not going to be playing Edward Cullen and Bruce Wayne the same exact way. But I'm looking forward to it, man. Coming out next year, hopefully. All things
I am
considered.
too, to be honest. As much as I'm kind of on the edge with this whole different casting for Batman. I get that this isn't really connected, or it's earlier than Justice League happenings and whatnot. Whatever, that's all fine and dandy. The one thing I'll say about this version that I'm seeing is, excuse me, it has. I saw DC Family on Instagram, I think it's called. They made a post and it was something like, I think it's one guy that runs it, and it's something about, this is the type of Batman that I wanted to see, or the type of DC film I've been excited for. And he used all my trigger words like gritty and dark. You left out ominous, but I'll forgive him for it. I just rewatched the teaser trailer a little bit, and those are the vibes I get. It's almost even more so than like what you had with the Dark Knight and stuff.
Yeah,
I like it. I think it looks really enticing. I also really appreciate and or like the sound and the music behind the trailer.
Sure.
It's not like a band with like an actual song with lyrics. It's like that, just kind of I don't even know what you call it, but just instrumental. And I like it. It keeps that vibe or tone. It's fitting. Fitted. So I like what I see, and I'm excited as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is just the start, if this does well enough, because I want it, I feel like this has the potential to get to the place where teasers at like the end of Arkham Knight, or even in the Batman Begins, when the villains get the fear toxin in them and they see Batman as like this terrifying creature. I would love it if we could get to a point where we start shooting Batman in that way a little bit, where we see it from the thief's perspective or like the robber's perspective, and they think of him as this like terrifying, mysterious force, but it's just him using, various gadgets and things to make himself appear that way or move that way, where people are like, I can't. Like, there was one episode of Batman, the animated series, where that was the case, where it was like from like another person's, like a cop's perspective, and you could see that like Batman moves really fast and stuff, and people are like, how, what, like this guy's like a monster. But like, I hope that's what we get to, because I feel like we've had too much light on Batman. I'd rather have to be a little more darkness, where you're like, what am I looking at here? Like, this terrifying creature just walked in the room. Like, that would be excellent. So maybe we'll get it here.
I really like that thought too, because I think what it does is it actually makes you look at Batman in a more profound way.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know how to put it into real words that mean a lot, but it just makes me consider him. It makes me take him more seriously.
Yeah, he's not human.
That he has, and that he has that effect on people or villains, and that he's maybe more. He's a bit more of something to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
I guess is what I'm getting at, and I think I like that a lot.
Yeah,
I like that. So
thank you. Yeah,
I hope it goes in that direction. I think that was a good thought. Well said.
Thank you. Well, let's see what happens. Like I said, they've only shot like a quarter of this thing, so who the heck knows? But apparently Catwoman's going to be in there too, and also potentially Colin Farrell, I guess, is going to be Penguin, or like a younger Penguin, and it sounds like Matt Reeves had said kind of in the little panel that this is going to be like kind of their beginning, and they might not start as these characters, but they're going to end that way, and kind of origin for multiple characters.
That's cool.
All I know is that I trust Matt Reeves, because not only did he work with Andy Serkis in the past, because Andy Serkis is going to be Alfred, but he made the Apes movies for the most part, and they're like incredibly compelling films for CGI apes, and like a weird, like the war and everything. Like the guy makes good movies. Like, I just I'm excited. When they announced him a long time ago, I was like, okay, I get why they were like, yeah, Matt Reeves, this guy, he knows what he's doing. So
yeah,
looking forward to it, man. Just, if anybody hasn't seen those movies, go check them out. They're oddly compelling. Like, you watch them, you're like, why am I so invested in Caesar? Like I'm so invested in freaking Caesar. Oh my gosh. Anyway, there we go. That's the Batman. But let's talk about the other kind of big trailer that dropped as far as movies go. That's Wonder Woman 1984. I'll be honest, I didn't watch it this weekend. I just watched it kind of in preparation for this, because I've been all in on Wonder Woman since the last movie. I was like, that was great. That was excellent. I don't care what she's in next. I'll watch her. Gal Gadot. She does a great job. And I think it's really smart, as we've talked about, to bring back Chris Pine. But obviously this trailer is way more 80s. It was very like, we're in the 80s. Like Cheetah, she's not a full cat lady until later on. I think she was the biggest reveal, like showing off the Cheetah stuff. I don't know how you feel about Cheetah. I've never been a huge Cheetah fan because I've always thought that's like a weird villain to have Wonder Woman face off against, even though she's powerful. Trust me, Cheetah fans out there.
Is she?
She is apparently strong enough to fight Wonder Woman, right? Like Wonder Woman.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, okay, she's a cheetah human hybrid thing. Is she really going to go toe to toe with the Greek god?
Well, if I hadn't seen the image for the thumbnail, I don't think I would have thought Cheetah transformed, because at first it's like, oh, maybe they're going like 1980s. If Cheetah were an actual person who got superpowers, she'd wear like the Cheetah outfit. She wants to be an apex predator. Okay, that's a fun nod to like her actual comic book look. And then I was like, nope, she's a real cat lady. And it's like, it's jarring.
That is one thing about this film that makes me a little, I mean, if we're getting right into it, it's one thing that makes me slightly concerned about this film is that she's the main antagonist.
Sure.
I think the story that they're going to set up for her is compelling from what they show.
Yeah.
It sounds like a bit of a, I don't know if jealousy is the right word, but I guess a little bit.
Oh yeah, totally.
Jealousy type thing. And wants to get back at Wonder Woman some way or another. But I don't know if she's going to be, for somebody of the caliber of Wonder Woman and what she dealt with in the first movie, I really wonder if she's going to be a compelling enough villain for something of this caliber. I mean, maybe we'll have to see what they do. The trailer was great.
Sure.
But as far as that's concerned, I'm a little skeptical how it's going to have the gravitas or whatever you want to say to it.
Sure.
Because I mean, the one thing that really worked for the first Wonder Woman installment was how they melded in the current events at the time.
Yeah.
And the human association with the whole World War I going on and things of that nature kind of playing a part in the whole story. It really added to it and gave that sense of relativity for the audience.
Yeah.
So I really like that. And I wonder if they're going to have enough of that in this film. Not that it's a requirement. I just think it really lended itself well to making it a more impactful film.
Sure. Yeah, well, we'll see.
But
yeah, well, I thought the villains in the last one weren't necessarily the greatest either. There was the lab poison doctor lady, and then Ares kind of at the end throughout.
Yeah.
It was a whole thing. But again, I guess like for me, I love to have, a hero's only as good as your villain, but Wonder Woman kind of skirted that, I think, just because I think Gal Gadot and Chris Pine were so excellent, and I liked the rest of their kind of basically their Howling Commando crew. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this goes. And Pedro Pascal as kind of the other like main bad guy, Maxwell Lord, who like people know him from Game of Thrones and The Mandalorian and stuff. But yeah, I think it's good for him to
what's
play.
His role in this film again?
He plays like super seedy salesman / maybe is the president or works for the president. I don't really know. But yeah, he's going to be one of the main characters in it too. So
I forgot about that aspect of the trailer, but yeah, so somehow they are going to have that real world relation in this film somehow. So maybe we will get a bit of that, it's Wonder Woman 1984, set in the timeline, you better have quite a bit. It's got to relate a lot to that time, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if they have things of that nature involved with it, that should be, maybe it'll be pretty good. I guess it'll have all the components you need for a good recipe.
I'm just excited because of the current trajectory of Wonder Woman. The next one will be set in the 2050s. Because they have to jump 70 years for every one of these. So I'm just really excited for that one. Wonder Woman just sitting in a barren, apocalyptic wasteland. No, knock on wood. She's like, what happened? It
turns out humanity was wiped out by some sort of virus.
Exactly. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, but I think it looks great. I didn't even need to see another trailer for this. I was just like, yep, she's got wings. I'm like, I don't really like. She has one wing armor.
For that matter, I don't need to see anything else on this. Just get it in my hands.
Get it in my hands. Exactly. It's still probably my favorite DC movie.
Or should I say, get it in my eyeballs?
Get in your eyeballs. Exactly. I gotta go back. I've been meaning to do a commentary on that one for a while. I do like that first movie. It's been a bit, but I still remember, man. I told the story, and I'm not alone on this. Kevin Feige and even you, Joe, have said this. I think like it's emotional when she's in No Man's Land. You know, she's going up there. It's like I was like tear up. I was like, now we're talking. I was like, now here's a hero. I was like, well done. Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, I've heard like backstories and stuff or behind the scenes stuff that Gal Gadot didn't feel good about how the way she looked when she ran, so they had to like kind of film her on a treadmill or whatever. Gal, you look fine. You look great. You look great running. You don't look weird at all. I still think the Flash looks kind of weird in the Justice League stuff. I'm like, the whole like the hands. There was probably a real reason for why they did it. If it's like a speed skaters, do they use their arms like that? Kind of, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, is anybody gonna complain about the way Gal Gadot moves? I mean,
I know she's great.
Move any way you want, it's fine.
Yeah, those were the big movie things, and we did. Well, I should say it was kind of a trailer, not really kind of behind the scenes showing the cast. Oh, sorry, Joe.
Before we move on, Wonder Woman. The trailer, just to kind of wrap it up, but I love the intensity of it, and it jumps around a little bit, but that initial intensity of her, or when you get her lassoing and swinging off of the lightning bolts, are you freaking kidding me? That is dope as hell.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I love it. And then then it kind of switches tones a little bit, like, you know, in the whole Chris Pine thing. I don't know how that's happening or whatever, but anywho, I love when they're having their moment, like parachute pants. What is everybody parachuting these days? And like the entire thing. There's a little comedy mixed in there, but appropriately.
Yeah.
And then also, you know, having Chris Pine back into the fold, I think is going to be nice to have that kind of relationship. Another human element into it. The whole.
Oh yeah.
You know, romance type thing that they got going.
Which I know some people are like, they don't need, like, you don't need to have romance in all these films. And I totally agree. I really do. I totally agree. But I think it's great. It's compelling. And also, like you said, Joe, there's that genuinely funny moment. There's another, like, it doesn't feel forced. And hopefully these weren't the best jokes, but I love it when they're in the jet and Chris Pine's like, he's like, or Steve Trevor, whatever, so he's like, with the way I fly, they'll never find us. And she's like, yeah, I forgot to mention to you about radar. And he's like, what? Yeah. Are they going to start shooting? It's like he doesn't know he's a man out of time. It's like if you like bringing Captain America forward so many years and be like, look at technology, and you're like, well, most of my tactics are gone. It's just
exactly.
It's like,
it's great.
Yeah, I like Chris Pine a lot. I think they've got a good chemistry, those two, and I like seeing that that's going to be another focal point here. And maybe that's another part of the jealousy. Maybe that's why Cheetah's probably going to try to kill him. She's going to be like, oh man, I came back to be mauled to death by one of the people from Cats. She does look like she looks better than the Cats, so I'll give him that much. You know, maybe that's my own problem. I'm not a cat guy. I've said it before. Anyway, we're moving on to, like I said, kind of trailer, not really trailer. Suicide Squad, the sequel, just the Suicide Squad. The James Gunn behind the scenes shows off the whole cast. There's like 1,000 people on there, lots of people, and as they say, don't get attached. I think there's a few on there that will probably have a higher % chance of not dying. Has been described as a 1970s style war movie. That doesn't mean it's set in the 1970s, because I don't think you take Harley Quinn and throw her back in the past. But yeah, it looks nuts. And from what James Gunn has said, he's like, yeah, it's the biggest movie I've ever worked on. Apparently they're one of their like explosives experts said he's like, this might be a movie that I've done more explosives in than all of my other movies combined, or explosions and effects. He's like, we've done so much stuff. And like we talked about the cast, there's so many people. And Joe, I was listening to you watch it, and you're like, whoa, Michael Rooker, and like we knew these people were going to be in there, but to see them like kind of in their costumes, and you're like, what?
Yeah, it's kind of dope. To be honest. The fact that DC's roster is so deep, especially when it comes to like smaller villains and such, it really lends itself well to a movie like this if done right.
Yeah,
I really hope, I think James Gunn is a good choice for something like this.
Perfect choice.
He has that right sense for something like this, and just how deep that roster is, just of the cast members, is wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and they got some good names on there, and I think it's really going to help project this movie forward, and hopefully do the Suicide Squad justice, as opposed to the first one. And yeah, I mean, you totally take note of all the explosions and stuff that they show off in the technical stuff, and it's cool. King Shark, that's going to be great, and I think they're doing him justice and making him look cool. Maybe not quite on the scale of like the Flash CW series, but which I dig. But yeah, overall, I just I got good vibes from it. It's got kind of a intense feel. They're going again with that music from oh gosh, come on, Joe. Do you know who that band is? What's that band?
Queen.
No.
21 Pilots.
Yeah, 21 Pilots, and it's a different song, of course, but it's kind of cool, fitting. They have a lot of the little snippets that they showed from this thing really seem intense.
Yeah.
I just think I kind of dug it.
Yeah.
I dug it. I digged it. Whatever.
You dug it. You dig it.
I digged it. It's got cool vibes, and the fact that it's such a deep cast, it means that it's not always going to be so focused in on a core group. It's going to be a little expanded, which might add to a more fun experience and kind of twisty turny, and there's always something fresh going on, so it's not as redundant or like seated.
Yeah.
You're kind of jumping around, and it's got more of a lighter feel to it, but all the while everything that's happening seems intense and captivating. I honestly think there's probably no way I won't see that movie. I think I think I have. I know you say go into a movie with low expectations, so you're always pleasantly surprised.
That's what I try.
This one, the way it's kind of set up, I do already have much higher expectations for it than the first Suicide Squad. Plus, I think that producers in the network know, or the studio knows that they have to step it up from what they did before if they want to make these characters work.
Yeah, totally. Well, and for me too, I agree with you. I think it looks good. I think if this were a movie where not a lot of people were going to die, I think people would get nervous, because it's even crazier than something like Avengers, where you're going to throw a bunch of people at the screen that nobody's ever heard of before. And I think the trick for most people will just be like, if you're not into comic books, or even if you are or into, superheroes and stuff, I just say, don't get attached. I would just tell people, if they're worried about this, I'd be like, just don't get attached to anybody. Hopefully they'll do a good enough job introducing the new characters, but I would also gather that some of these characters will go out pretty quickly. I also think there'll be a lot of jokes around their deaths. I also think there's a good chance that we'll get like a really deep backstory on someone, and it's like super tragic, and in the next scene they'll die. Like, it'll just be like, oh my gosh, this person, like, they're fighting for all this stuff, and they're just dead in the next scene, and they're just like, because that's the Suicide Squad. And I really hope, and I don't know if they've confirmed a villain or not yet, that they don't go up against somebody like another god or whatever. Just do it like we've talked about, do it like low level, somebody who maybe has their own like little militia or army, but something that like these people could fight against, because I don't need to have another, like, just somebody that could annihilate them by looking at them. And I get to that, like, Will Smith's not back. That's too bad. Idris Elba's here. He's not Braun Steiger, though, which I thought was interesting. But they've got some weird...
He's not Deadshot, right?
Yeah, he's not Deadshot either, which is good.
The character name was cool.
It was...
it's something very...
Might have to check it. Fact check. Live fact check. Ready, Joe? Are you excited for this?
Somewhat ominous and kind of...
Here we go. His name is... I should have looked this up. Oh, not Peacemaker. That's John Cena, which is very funny. Bloodsport. Bloodsport. I love... So the John Cena bit was maybe one of my favorites, because he was going in and he's like, here was my direction from James Gunn, who... Applause to John Cena trying to kind of do what The Rock and Dave Bautista have done before him, move out of wrestling into movies. But he goes in and he's like, all right, so you're Captain America if he was like a dick. And he's like, oh, That's all I need to know. Like, and so he's like, yep, he's just like a guy with a big gun and stuff, just kind of shoots people. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of betrayals and stuff too. I think this will just be a fun, weird movie that I think will do pretty well. But also, I think we'll have just this kind of weird following afterwards where people are like, oh man, they need to make more like that. The Suicide Squad. Not Suicide Squad, but The Suicide Squad, the one James Gunn did. And I think, again, you said James Gunn was good for this. I think he's perfect for this. Especially the timing of it all, where like he kind of was getting fired from Marvel and like Warner Brothers and DC picked him up and now he's kind of back with Marvel again. I would love it if he could do both, because I think Guardians it's got a lot of comedy, but it's very focused on that group, that small group of characters that have been building, right? But I also think if you give him like 20 characters to work with and you're like, you could kill pretty much any of these people, and he's like, all right, you know, like you can really make some fun jokes that we haven't seen in a superhero film before if anybody at any moment could die. And I think there are certain characters like Harley Quinn. She probably isn't going to die. I was listening to the boys over at the Weekly Planet, and they made a really good point about this. It's like, what if Margot Robbie, you know, signed on for all this stuff, but she's like, I want to get my solo Harley Quinn movie. They gave it to her, and now it's like she's on the table to maybe die. But if this movie does well enough, I don't think you kill Harley Quinn, right? Like, I still think at the end of the day, Margot Robbie's like, you want to keep her around just in case.
They might need her for future.
Yeah, and if like, I don't think they'll kill her, but it's cool to see King Shark. King Shark got a lot of love this DC fandom, but Captain Boomerang's back. I think he's going to be even like way better this time to work with all these other people. But there's so many weird,
actor, right?
Yeah, Jai Courtney. But there are so many weird characters in here that I've kind of heard of in passing or not even heard of before. So that's going to make it even better.
The Weasel?
Weasel. Yeah, which I think is Sean Gunn. I think he's mocapping it, his brother, who's like in everything. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is so good. But, you know, Viola Davis coming back as Amanda Waller. Perfect. I think they might actually give her some more jokes to work with this time, maybe. Like, she might just start killing people just because she can, like, just to prove a point. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to this, man. I think this will be fun, especially if it's R-rated. I think it could be one of those movies where you're like, yeah, that's a weird superhero movie, but if you've never watched a superhero movie before, watch that one, because it's just like, what's happening? And that's the thing, it's
not. It's a villain movie.
Yeah.
Kind of. Or anti-hero movie.
Yeah.
I like that Warner Brothers and DC realize that there's a market to be honed in on and capitalize on there with villains. Because let's face it, without villains, you don't have heroes, and people are drawn to villains just as much as they are to heroes, if not more sometimes. Yeah. So good on them for kind of shining some spotlight on that segment of the comics universe. But I dig this one. This one has much better vibes than the first one, and I like the fact that it's overstuffed. And I think if somebody's going to do something cool and creative with that, it's Sean Gunn. And from what we're hearing with there's more explosions on this than I've done in all the movies I've ever worked on combined. I mean,
and James Gunn.
Exactly. I'm just liking that vibe and the ensemble and the fact that it's overstuffed. I really think it has legs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope it does well enough. Like I said, there's nothing keeping directors, well, maybe there's things behind the scenes we don't know about, but there's nothing keeping them from ever to never like go and make movies on, you know, both sides or whatever. Like I think it's fine. Like, just do that. I think all it does is it's kind of like, hey, I take what I learned, you know, from, you know, Guardians, and I can apply it to some degree here with Suicide Squad, and then take that back to Guardians 3. Like, hey, if Matt Reeves want to direct like a Winter Soldier noir to, like, you know, thriller or something, I'd be all about it. That's all I'm trying to say. But yeah, it looks good. Just go watch the weird, like, 5-minute behind the scenes thing. It looked like James Gunn was having the time of his life, though. He looked like he was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, he looked like they probably just said, hey man, how much money do you need? Like, he was probably like, you know, I'm sure there were budgets and stuff, but it looked like there was not a want for money, especially with the star power and also blowing stuff up. And it looks like there's a lot going into this, which is great. It's good.
Yeah.
So a lot of interesting, good movies coming from DC. Like I said, there's Black Adam in the teaser. They talked a little bit about Aquaman. Sounds like Ocean Master is going to be coming back. And that's great too, but we haven't really seen anything on that. I don't know if James Wan is coming back or not for that. That was a movie that was really overstuffed too, but in a different way. That was more of just like the world. There's a lot of world stuff. But yeah, I'm excited for all those. Those all sound good to me. But I want to talk about the thing I'm most excited about, Joe. I want to talk about the games, and I think because we're talking about Suicide Squad, why not just move right into Gotham Knights? No, I'm just kidding. Let's talk about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Now, I made videos on these that I'm sure everybody here has watched. Unless you're listening to this, then you should go to the YouTube channel and watch it. But, Joe, I want to get your feeling. Now, again, just a cinematic trailer, indicative potentially of the actual game. Who knows? I'm really skeptical with cinematic trailers now. As an older man, Joe, because I used to, with my big bright eyes, I'd watch those World of Warcraft cinematics when I was younger, and I was like, this game looks sick, and then they would show me the actual gameplay, and I'm like, it looks nothing like that. Like, it's like, there's none of that. You don't fight like that, you don't move like that. It's like, go in the field and kill the birds or whatever, and you're like, World of Warcraft's great, guys. I'm just saying, cinematic's not always the same, but for what you saw, we get another Suicide Squad, but Harley Quinn and King Shark are there again too, and I should say Captain Boomerang, but also Deadshot is in this one. And this one is actually a continuation of the Arkhamverse, the Arkham games, whereas Gotham Knights, we'll talk about later on, that's completely separate, even though that looks more like an Arkham thing. Either way, what did you think of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League?
First of all, Superman, holy crap, he just burned that guy to ashes.
You like him? Dusted him.
I mean, that's me right there. If I had superpowers, I don't need any outside influence. I
know, you're a monster.
It looked kind of cool, and I like, from what you were saying, I watched your Critical Reconnaissance, a good review of this.
Or whatever, it's fine.
Critical Intelligence.
There's a bunch of names. It's ridiculous.
Because you have the Reconnaissance for the vloggy style stuff. Anywho, yeah. I get them confused.
So do I, and I make them.
Anywho, I think it was well done. You kind of give it a nice little in-depth look and of what we can potentially expect. But it kind of looked cool, and I like the whole co-op mode to it and the missions. Is it weird that I kind of got a little bit of a, maybe not quite as like futury cartoony, but almost an Overwatchy vibe?
That's another great way to put it. I was telling people Fortnite or Sunset Overdrive, which was on Xbox One launch. It's very much like those where you look at it and you're like, is this really going to be one of the Arkham games? Because in Arkham, I'm so used to just like the dark and gritty, like realistic world. And this was like, hey, there's purple, like lots of purple. It's really bright. It's colorful. It's the daytime.
Colorful. Yeah. But, excuse me. But no, I kind of, it looks compelling. It looks kind of neat. And I don't know how that team's going to deal with Superman in any way whatsoever.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like that's kind of the joke at the end of the trailer, which is great. With the whole like Captain Boomerang probably throwing a boomerang, hitting Superman in the head, and going, "Shock, what are you doing?" Kind of thing. I think we're gonna see a few obviously Justice Leaguers in this game. So Superman, I'm glad they showed him off right away. From the balloons, King Shark's popping in the beginning. There's like a Batman and a Green Lantern balloon, like they were at some sort of kid's birthday party, and they're kind of popping these things. I feel like that means both of them potentially could be in the game as other Justice League members to bring down. The question really is, will they kill them, but they're under the influence of Brainiac? Because I'm pretty sure that's the Brainiac ship kind of hovering over Metropolis. For sure. And that's kind of, we've seen that in Injustice 2 and stuff. I don't know if they'll actually kill these members off, especially if it's the Arkhamverse. That's the thing that kind of boggles my mind, like why this game wouldn't be a separate thing where they're like, hey, it's a completely different universe for this game because like we might be killing big superheroes. But at the same time, the theories have been like, how do you make games for some of these superheroes that you could kill? Because if you had all the powers of Superman, they've made Superman games before, but any problem in a regular video game could be solved in like 5 seconds by Superman, like for the most part. Like usually, like unless it's like bombs on the other side of the planet and they go off and those bombs trigger other bombs, like if it's like get to the top, floor to save this person from jumping off a building, or like just save this train from derailing. Like Superman's gonna fix that like that. It's not gonna be a problem. So I get where maybe if you killed off Superman, they'd be like, well, we don't have to make a Superman because we killed him, and we'll never make a Superman game because it'd just be too flippin' hard. But I don't know, man. I think it looks interesting. I think it looks cool. I just want to see actual gameplay like they did with Gotham Knights. I want them to do, you mentioned it before, what Overwatch did. Overwatch showed the cinematic, showed the game, or had the gameplay, and then it was playable at their event. And obviously it wouldn't be playable, but I love that whole kind of like at least 2 reveals where it's like, all right, here's the cinematic to kind of whet the palate. Here's your appetizer. Here's the actual gameplay. So you can be like, okay, so when you watch the cinematic, you're like, so I saw Harley zipping around on her grapple hook. That's how it looks in the game. Or I saw King Shark doing like the little beast kind of cannonball roll forward. That's how he moves in the game. Like that's what I really want to get to. And why the heck they didn't put Deathstroke in there? It's driving me nuts, Joe.
Maybe
like,
it is. It's just they didn't want.
Maybe I don't know. I think this game, and we'll talk about it with Gotham Knights a little too. I think this is going to be another games as a service game. I really do. Where it's you can play it by yourself. You can play it with up to 4 friends and drop in, drop out co-op, which is great. I just think this game is ripe for you beat the main campaign, and a month later, if you want, we're going to give you a new mission, and then 2 months later, you can buy this character or buy this mission pack or whatever else. I really think that's going to happen. It's going to be Destiny-like, because they said it's supposed to be like fun traversal, but great third-person shooting, which the third-person shooting, if it's games as a service, all I'm thinking is Division, which I think is the closest thing to a third-person shooter that's got really good, like, shooting mechanics. Yeah. I really think that's what we're looking at here. I really do. And
I would not disagree.
Yeah.
Which I like. I think that's cool for a game like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Which character, out of the 4, as you throw away your wedding ring, out of the 4 characters, which of them is the most interesting to you?
Captain the Boomerang can teleport?
I guess so.
And this he can.
The theory from that show that I've heard is that maybe because he's a speed villain, that he took some of the Speed Force or something, and it's like in a boomerang. I was like, that'd be pretty fun. That's cool. And if he gets to fight, because he's like, are we gonna go after the Flash? Like he wants to go after the Flash so badly. I think he mentions that in this. Maybe. I would love to see him take down the Flash. That'd be pretty sick. That'd be cool to do as.
To be honest, I kind of like King Shark, kind of the tanky.
Yeah, big gun and stuff.
Big gun, and I kind of like that thought. And not to mention, I want to see how you play a character like that. He's interesting. He's a little different in this one from renditions we've seen in history. But yeah, I could dig it. I think that'd be my pick at the moment.
Sure. It's really boring, but probably Deadshot for me, because he kind of he's not Deathstroke, but at least he's got like a jetpack, and he can let people on fire, burn them and stuff, and set them on there. And he also has a sniper rifle, which is good, I guess. I wonder if he's gonna have any trick shots. I'm really hoping he's got like bullet ricochets, because that's kind of Deadshot's thing. If he never misses, he's just like, oh, I shot a wall and it hit you. So yeah, I'm hoping for that. And they've already kind of changed up his look from the Arkham games anyway, so I don't know how like to canon this has to be, but I'm fine with them doing something completely different. They've done Batman for so long. I could see Batman being the final boss in a sense, even if Superman wasn't, because Superman I still think would probably be the scariest to go after. But I don't know how they're gonna handle Batman. I don't know how they'd handle Flash, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter. I don't know how they handle any of that. All I know is that I just desperately want Deathstroke. And I know they said there's just these 4 characters for now, which is great. Just please, for the love of everything holy, just put him in one of these freaking games. It's not that hard. You've done it before, so it drives me nuts. Anyway, it's like, freaking Deathstroke.
It is weird that the artistic style doesn't really match up with all the Arkham stuff very well. But it's still connected.
And I wonder too, and this is me theorizing, that like the mental state of the Suicide Squad members is usually a little off anyway, so maybe this is kind of how they see the world, where Batman sees like the darkness of the world, and that's like how he perceives Arkham. And we're in a different city, we're in Metropolis, but still, it definitely, when I first saw it, I think I was even saying, I was like, is this Sunset Overdrive 2? Like, not that they can't do something cartoony and stuff, but you do that, or you're gonna get these parallels drawn to Fortnite and all that stuff. It's just going to happen. But the question really is going to be, if it is a third-person shooter, and if the jumping mechanics look anything like Fortnite, and it has a color palette kind of like Fortnite, and I know it's completely different, it's not a battle royale, but people will compare it. And I wonder if it was a consideration. They've been working on this game for a while, so I don't know. I don't know. I want it to be good, but like I said, I'm going to reserve judgment for the actual gameplay because in the past I've been burned and I'm like, that game looks amazing. And then I like see the gameplay and I'm like, what? And if you're one of those people who love cinematics and believes in them, that's great. Wonderful. I used to be like that too. Just get burned a few times and then you'll be like, oh.
You give up pretty quick.
You give up pretty quick. One of my favorites though, Joe, and I always bring it up, it was the one we got a cinematic for Witcher 3 before it came out a long time ago. It's The Witcher, and he's Geralt, and he's fighting a vampire. The game, it kind of was like how the game would play out, like him hunting a monster. It wasn't as cinematic as that when you actually play the game, but it kind of lent itself to like what the game was going to be. I think everybody should look at cinematics like that. Be like, all right, first off, it won't look this pretty. Second off, it might have a few elements in it that are like gameplay, but it's not going to be that. But it is coming in 2022, which means it's for sure going to be on the next gen consoles. So it's not going to be at this kind of transitional period. So whatever it is, I bet it'll just look and hopefully run super duper smooth. That's the real hope here. So yeah. Any other thoughts on Suicide Squad? Kill the Justice League? That's hard to say.
No, not really. More to come. But,
more to come.
Yeah, it looks compelling. Yeah, I mean, it kind of segues right into our next topic, which is Gotham Knights, right?
Yeah. So, like, you just saw this for the first time right now, and you're familiar with the Arkham games. How do you feel about this? Now, again, this is 1 to 2 player co-op. There are 4 different playable characters, but 1 to 2 player, and that's what it's keeping it basic.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if it was 4, but I understand how that can get a little complex to do. But first of all, the Arkham games, I've played them before. I think you even lent me one of them, and it's cool. I like the tactics that you can use and the diversity in it via the tactics and the environment. I think they've done what they've always needed to do in adding this co-op. The Arkham games have such a following anyway. There's probably tons of people that are just itching to be able to get in with a buddy and use all those features and do all these things together and bond over that. So I think hats off to them for doing that. And this game, in all honesty, actually is more compelling to me than any I've seen in recent releases. What? Yeah, I think that's really cool. Really cool. Because Arkham games are good. I enjoyed them, but they fall off quick for me because they're solo. And, I think if you can bring people together in a game of that style, it's freaking great. It's great.
Yeah, let's run through the roster, and I misspoke in the actual video about this because I never know if she's going as Batgirl or Batwoman. Batwoman is completely different. So Batgirl is in this, Barbara Gordon, and then we have Tim Drake as Robin. So we know Tim Drake from he's the 3rd Robin. He was also in the Arkham games, but he had like the hood and he had the stick with the shield and stuff on it. But he's younger in this one. We also have Nightwing, Dick Grayson, and then we also have Jason Todd, the freaking Red Hood, baby. And I hope those pistols are real live ammunition, because I just love to think that Bruce Wayne was like, I'm going to send the all call out, and maybe Jason will see this, and it's like, I wish he sent him a different one. It was like, Jason, please, don't kill anyone. And Jason's like clicking the guns, and he's like, no, Bruce, you're dead now, so... I'm gonna go deliver some justice. I don't know why he's from like New York. He's from like the Bronx, and in my mind, anyway, I think it looks cool. I like the motorcycle. I think they're gonna. I hope they take what they learned and use it sparingly, but from what they learned in Arkham Knight with the Batmobile, and they're like, all right, you can kind of get around the city this way if you want to as well. But yeah, man, I don't know about you, but Red Hood, they didn't show a ton of it, but to me looks the most compelling because I'm like, it's freaking Red Hood, dude. Like,
oh hell yeah! I mean, it's kind of a sexy looking game as it is, and Arkham games always were. It's got the right vibe, man. It's got the right vibe.
I bet one thing that was tough for them, especially with the Bat family here, besides everybody with Red Hood out of this, it's like all those characters kind of have like electric sticks, or you know what I mean? Like it's kind of all like stun batons, and it's how do you make them all different? But I think they did a good job, and one of the things they talked about is Robin actually having access to, I think it's like the Justice League or like the Watchtower, and so he's got like boom tube technology or teleporter technology, so when you see him teleporting around, that's what he's doing. I don't know why he's the only one who gets that, but it just makes him different. But I was wondering, can Robin, did he always have teleportation? Like, I was like, I've been watching this stuff for a while now, but I was like, Robin. But I like that you give him that. I think Barbara is, Batgirl's a little more straight up, like regular kind of Batman. Plus, she can like summon the bats, which is a great move. I love that too. We didn't really see Nightwing or Red Hood too much. Just kind of, we didn't see them in actual gameplay. But one thing I love, Joe, is something that I've been saying Gears should do forever: the co-op takedown. Like she got somebody pretty weak and like held him there, and then she like Robin came over and she throws him up, and Robin jumps up with a stick and smacks him back down. And I was like, yes, I was like, that's what the Bat family would do. They'd be like, all right, I'll do this, you do that. And,
coordination.
Yeah, coordination. They also talked about like you can kind of do. They always say this, like you can go loud or you can go quiet. You can kind of stealth around and take everybody out that way. Or if you want to, engage them in a big fight, you can do that as well. But I also thought it was interesting. They showed the kind of like a leveling system, and what they've said, from what I understand, is like the world levels with you. So it's not going to be like if I'm level 10 and that guy's level 14, he's going to crush me every time. I think it's like if I'm level 10, he's level 10. And they even said the Mr. Freeze fight at the end, this is a different Mr. Freeze than we got in Arkham City, who's one of the greatest boss battles of all time. I'm going to always say that. But for me personally, but he will attack you in different ways depending on what level you are. So if you're level 5 and he's level 5, he's just going to be more standard. But if you're level 15 and he's level 15, not only will he probably hit harder, he'll use different attacks as well. I don't know what the extent of that is, but I think that was kind of cool. I was like, so if you decide to grind out and be like, all right, we'll crush Mr. Freeze when we fight him, it's like, no, not necessarily. He might have other tricks up his sleeve where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe
it. Maybe because it's based on, you may have different tactics unlocked that you're able to counter him better, so they have to adapt his abilities to yours. That's cool. Yeah. What about the co-op, though? Like, if you're in a session with a friend, you outrank them because you played more. Do they level that out?
Ooh, great question. I'm guessing they'll have a way to level that to just even it out. And this is just a guess. They've not confirmed or denied this, but if you're level 15, Joe, and I'm level 10, and I join you as any of those characters, I think I play your characters, or at least get leveled up to your point. I also don't know if there's the customization. If I bring in like my Red Hood to play alongside your Nightwing, or vice versa, if I would have my skill set, or it would be like the skills that you would have with Red Hood. I don't know. I'm sure they're going to try to make that as even as possible, because they don't want to be like, all right, well, just join me and I'll just level you through this stuff. Just follow behind me and I'll beat up goons and you kind of stand nearby and get experience points. But great question. I'm glad you like it. I know a lot of people have said like, oh, this looks better than Marvel's Avengers already. I get where the comparisons come in, the whole co-op superhero thing. I think these are very different games. I think if you look at the Arkham games and stuff, they're much more methodical, and much lower, kind of not lower stakes, but just like smaller scale. Like you're fighting a couple of goons. Yeah. Marvel's Avengers stuff, it's its own beast. Like each character in that game is so distinctly, crazily different. Whereas this one, I think it's more nuance in like they have similar abilities, but they also have a few unique ones as well. I don't think you have to pick though. I think you can play both. This one's coming out in 2021. I would love to get this on Series X and or whatever. It's just like I think it looks cool. Also, Mr. Freeze is in it. They also announced the Court of Owls, which has been kind of long rumored. A lot of people thought this was going to be like the new Batman game from WB Montreal, and he was going to fight off against the Court of Owls. And for people who don't know them, basically think like Gotham Illuminati. I still think probably a really good chance Bruce Wayne isn't dead in any of these things, and he'll show up. He might be even brainwashed. Part of the Court of Owls, I really think there's a good chance at the end he'll remove his mask of these owls and he'll be the main guy, like Bruce. So, I think that's a cool thing for the Bat family to have to fight, is a large group like that, along with some other villains like Mr. Freeze, which I'm just happy to see Freeze back in stuff because I just love Mr. Freeze. So I'm just like, yes, more Mr. Freeze. So, game looks great. It looks really cool. I'm excited about it. It's, like I said, very different, though, than Avengers. So, yeah. Joe, any other thoughts on Gotham Knights?
No, I think I said it. I mean, I honestly think there's a good chance I would pick up a game like that. Or that. It looks good.
Well, cool. Well, maybe I can count on you then. Because, like, I still think, Joe, even though there'll be, like, co-op campaign, I wouldn't be surprised to see 4-player, like, super brawl missions where you have to fight like 1,000 guys or something. I also think this will be a games as a service model too, where they're like, all right, you call it Gotham Knights, and like, in 5 months, Deathstroke, you can buy him for $5, or there's a new villain that's come to town if you want to pay for $6 or whatever else. So Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm cool with these superhero games and service games. This one hasn't been confirmed to be that. I just think between this and Suicide Squad, they seem very similar. And I think that's very, very intentional. I think it's like, why make, 3 games over 10 years when we can make one game that we just constantly support and build upon, and people are just like, yeah, cool. So
yeah, that's one thing I like to see out of it. Either it's very long, or it's got legs to grow further.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want out of a game. I don't want something that, okay, a month I beat it, I'm done.
Yeah.
I want it to have legs, and that I put some time in and enjoy it for a longer duration. But which I think this has that potential.
I'll take a cue also from the other Batman games and Marvel's Avengers too, where like you can have a ton of different outfits. I want to make Red Hood look cool in a lot of different ways. I want to make Nightwing look cool in a lot of different ways. And the Nightwing, I wanted Damian Wayne or Robin Joe, but that was like the one from Injustice, the one with like the sword and stuff, the one from like the League of Assassins. Like he's just killing people. I wanted that Robin, but oh well, that's fine. I guess I don't get that.
The one thing I like about this compared to like Marvel's Avengers is I like the look and the style of it a lot more.
Yeah.
Also, the way the missions are, it's a little different style.
It's way more tame, I think, and it's way more focused.
Yeah, exactly. A lot more focused, and I don't want to say a singular path or a narrow path through the gameplay, but sometimes it kind of is, and I kind of appreciate that a little bit more in the thought that you put into it, and just the overall quality look of it. I think I dig it a little bit more. You're seeing some of that stuff that they're doing. They're showing off Batgirl up on like a concrete retaining wall kind of a thing, and I noticed how you had like a street light, and you had these enemies that were patrolling this catwalk, and she was almost hard to see. I could never totally make out her entire appearance, because as she moved, the lighting changed, and 1 minute you could kind of see her, and then next thing you know, it was like barely a silhouette. And I appreciate how the lighting changes and the way the environment reacts with your character.
Yeah,
I really like that. So
totally, yeah. I forgot who said this, but they had such a good point. This is somebody in our Discord, I believe, or maybe on the Twitch streams. It's like, what if you and I are playing, Joe, you're Red Hood and I'm Robin, and it's kind of open worldy for this mission, and they say like, hey, there's 2 bombs, but they're on opposite sides of the city, and these are going to be both really tough fights, and you can't really revive each other or help each other. Ooh. So you have to run to those 2 places, and be like, all right, I'm going, like, and you have to defuse them at the same moment. And you're like, all right, dude, ready? On 3, like kind of that kind of thing. If they could do it, I think would be really fun. Or like they even talked about, someone was saying like, what if one of your teammates gets captured and like your Batgirl gets captured, so you can't use her, and you have to go break her out or go save her from something. I was like, oh man, some of this stuff, I was like, these are great ideas. Like, really? If that's the case, they haven't said this is in the game. Could just be just getting the ball rolling. And I was like, oh man, but I love the whole like defuse the bomb thing, because we've all done that in games. But like if you're playing a co-op game and you're like, man, this is gonna be really hard to do without you, and they're like, yeah, but we got to do it, and you only have like 3 minutes to do it, and you're like, okay, all right, I'm going, and you just
I would like if they would insert technicalities like that where it's a little more involved and organic and actually requires a lot of communication or coordination. I think that's dope.
And maybe they have to hire some outside help, and maybe they have to get some money involved, and then they could just hire like Deathstroke, and then we could do it. And then they're like, all right, Deathstroke, we are killing people. And he's like slitting a dude's throat, and he's like, yep, definitely not doing that. Like just cleaning out the Ninjato or whatever. He's like, oh, freaking amateurs. Oh man, he'd be so. I know they wouldn't make him that expensive, but I'm not going to say there isn't a price high enough, because there definitely is, but I'm just saying I'd probably pay like $20 to $30 just for Deathstroke. I want to play him again so badly. Oh my gosh. It'd be nice if he actually killed people, because I haven't really played a game with him. Well, I guess Injustice, Gods Among Us, you could play him. Anyway, so that game I think looks good. And honestly, right now it looks better than Suicide Squad, because I just haven't seen Suicide Squad. That's more of like the hope of what it could be. Hopefully Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League looks way better than Gotham Knights, but I think it was smart to announce them the way they did, Joe. They did Gotham Knights like way earlier in the day, and then they did Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League way later. And I think it's good not to put these back to back and be like, But again, Bruce Wayne apparently is dead in this world, and that's what the Bat family is coming to save Gotham from all these other criminals. And I hope we see a criminal team up like we've seen in the past. But this, if we each, that's another thing too, Joe. What if we had to go fight, like you have to fight Killer Croc and I have to go fight Clayface or something, and we have to do it by ourselves, or like they both attack us at the same time and it's like, all right, I'm good against this guy, you're good against that guy, like, that'd be choice. That'd be very choice. Yeah. I'd be really excited about it.
For sure.
So Joe, from all the stuff we talked about today, is there anything in particular that you're the most excited about? Is it Gotham Knights, or is it like the Batman trailer? What is it? Is it Black Adam and the stuff you haven't seen?
To be honest, I mean, Black Adam, that's enticing. I mean, I'm excited to see Dwayne Johnson in a role such as that.
Yeah.
Something different from what he's been known for in recent past. I mean, I don't know how some of those movies are so successful. They're kind of, Jumanji, I was actually surprised that actually worked and was okay. But I'm excited to see him in something more grand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a cool character overall. But anyway, but of what we really honed in on, to be honest, it's tough. Wonder Woman for sure, but I've been on that boat since the first one. I'm just like, I'm all in. I mean, you got me. I don't care what trailer you show. Show me a picture. I'm good.
Yeah.
But for that reason, I would like to say that I'm very excited about the new Batman. As hard as it is for me to accept a new actor playing Batman, even though apparently they're not associated, but they might be. Whoever the hell knows.
Yeah.
Anywho, I think that has a lot of potential. The new The Suicide Squad by James Gunn. I mean, yeah, that's great and all, but I mean, I'm not giddy. The thing about the Batman trailer is it just had that, it kind of enticed you, and it makes your mind kind of, ooh, and there's not a lot of dialogue. It's just kind of snappy and has that dark feeling to it. I just, I've used the word vibe a lot tonight, but that's got a vibe to it that just seems like it could go somewhere. And,
sure.
and you're just, not only that, but it gives you a little bit of hope for a Batman that is just really captivating.
Yeah. So the Batman.
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest. Cool. Yeah. And really the only reason is because, Wonder Woman is just like a gimme.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go, gal. You're just so good. I think for me, Batman trailer looks really good. Man, I am hopeful for Gotham Knights. I'm just gonna be hopeful. I feel like that's the thing that got me. I was really surprised by it. The other stuff, there's some things I'm like, okay, sure, this is kind of more or less what I'd expect when I see it. But Gotham Knights, I was like, wait, what? So yeah, I'm excited about that game, and it'll be a lot better if somebody like you want to play with me, because I look at that, I'm like, that game would be fun. I played through 4 Arkham games before by myself. It'd be really fun to play alongside somebody else. So I'm looking forward to it.
And I agree with you too. It's hard for me not to pick that, but I think it's a really hard question, Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you.
Gotham Knights, I gotta admit, I didn't think I would be all gung ho about it, but after watching what you had there for the critical intelligence, it looks pretty compelling. It looks cool. And I love the fact that there's co-op involved in a game like that.
Yeah, well, me too. Well, WB Games, did you hear that? I just got you potentially another sale. So if you want to sponsor us, that'd be great. I will sell out in a second. But, for people listening or watching, whatever the thing that you were the most excited about was the thing we're the most excited about. If you are so excited, if it's the Snyder cut, we are with you 1,000,000%. If it's just the weirdest little, if it was the Wonder Woman like cast playing werewolf or whatever, which was kind of weird to watch, we're with you. If it was Will Arnett kind of showing off the Suicide Squad game and asking to be an NPC in the game, we are excited about the Will Arnett NPC that I'm sure we will be able to kill in the game. So by the way, Aisha Tyler, who was in there, she used to do Ubisoft. Yeah, well, she was on. Oh, she used to host the Ubisoft events for E3 and stuff. She was she's just excellent. I feel like she should be at every hosting thing because she legitimately seems like she's passionate about this stuff. Like she doesn't have to fake it. Like sometimes you watch like more famous actors come on there and they're just like, I'm so excited to play they like look at this. They're like, "What? That isn't that pretty sweet, right?" And you're like,
"Yeah, exactly."
Like,
no,
just go back.
She's good. She's also, I mean, even watching her on Who's Line, like she does those types of things very well.
I forgot she's on there. She's talented. She's cool.
She is. Yeah.
So we're the most excited about Aisha Tyler coming to all of these things, I'm sure. Anyway, by the way, if you guys want something fun, go watch the old, was it Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 4? 5? Jamie Foxx and Zac Efron, one of the best E3 moments of all time. They're like, "Are you excited about this?" And I think Zac Efron, I think he's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty jazzed." It just seemed like he was like, "I don't even know." But good on you, Zach. I haven't watched your new Netflix show, Down to Earth. I'm sure it's good. But anyway, Joe, speaking about killing time with watching stuff, it's time to move into that segment of the show that I like to call, you like to go, we all like to call.
Coming to you live from the off-site remote headquarters for Critical Reviews. This is a segment we like to call Time Killers.
That's right. It's time for Time Killers. Wow, that was amazing. It's the games we've been playing, movies we've been watching, TV shows we've been viewing. I usually let Joe go first, but I'm going first today. I rewatched the first season of The Boys on Amazon Prime. It's still messed up. There's still some really good moments in it. I'm really looking forward to season 2. You know, it's basically Evil Justice League, or if the Justice League existed today and worked for a mega company. Yeah, it's definitely not something you watch with the whole family. I'll say that much. But yeah, besides that, that's kind of been the most stuff. I've just been like editing videos and stuff and making stuff and catching up on things. So Joe, what?
Avengers, been doing some of that. Right?
Oh, Avengers beta. I did the Avengers beta last weekend. Yeah, and Joe, you got to try it out. What'd you think?
I did. You know, in all honesty, I mean, it's good. It's good. It's kind of what do you want to say? It's a way for you to get connected with the Marvel universe again while we're kind of in this kind of disconnect time as far as you know, other forms of consumption go with films and whatnot. But to be honest, I liked it. It was fun, but I expected a little bit more. And I don't mean to be harsh about it. It's not like they did a poor job. It's just when I compare it, and I haven't even played Gotham Knights, but when I compare the two, being that they are somewhat similar, the cooperative mode and all that, I like the style of a Gotham Knights better, even though I've only been, you know, surface level exposed to it thus far. I like that style a lot more than this, and I feel, for me personally, I know that the Marvel game isn't going to have legs for me. I know there's a storyline and everything, which is fine. I don't see myself getting hooked, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
You know, the fights, the missions that we were doing together, and I know this is just a beta, but it feels a little bit like cannon fodder horde mode a little bit, which is okay. But yeah, I just don't think it would have the longevity for me to necessarily commit to it. I had fun, but I expected a little more something out of it that just kind of, you know, it's Marvel's Avengers.
Sure.
I want it to be a little tier above, and it just didn't quite get there for me. But it's just the beta, but still, I mean, the beta's there to test for them, but also for you to see if you like it, right?
Yeah.
And I like some of the cutscenes and stuff, the cutscenes and all that, and the storyline. It was kind of cool, and I like the cinematic stuff. It looked good and had a cool feeling to it, and I was drawn into watching them.
Yeah.
But for me, there's a quality missing somewhere where the aesthetic doesn't quite captivate me like I expected. You know, like
sure.
I don't know. I thought it would look a little better. The style is fine. Sometimes the movement was a little herky jerky, like with the Hulk. Like I wanted it to be a little smoother. Like as I'm doing that first introductory part where you're, you know, spoiler if you haven't played the beta, but you know, you're the Hulk on the Golden Gate Bridge and you're kind of jumping from the rubble from here to there. there were multiple times where it was like, all right, yeah, I'm the Hulk. I'm going to jump here. I'm going to run. And then I'm going to do a big jump and I'm going to cling onto that and jump from there to there and then there. But I would, I would do the jump and then I had to jump again, but it was a short little sprint that you had to do and then do it.
Yeah.
It fell off every time because as I went to hit A, he wouldn't jump and he would fall off. I was like,
sure.
Yeah. Like I felt like there was a little bit of a fluidity missing from it, and just there's not that polish that I was hoping for. But all that being said, I don't want people to think I'm digging on it. It's not bad. And as you play different characters, I think the Hulk is the one I noticed it with the most, but you play other characters. Iron Man, I think he feels fairly fluid in the way he attacks and things like that. But and I know I got to hone draw back my expectations a little bit with certain things or mechanics. Like I know I said to you, like, dude, with the aiming and shooting type stuff, like, Thor can throw his hammer and call it back. And I mean, everything's happening fast. You got to take out a lot of people in quick succession. And if you don't, you're getting beat down. And that taking the time moment to, and Hulk can grab rubble and throw it, and then Iron Man with his phasers. That time you take the aim, and then let alone the aiming is really, it's actually kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Kind of bugged me a little bit. And that's where I feel like the fluidity would like disconnect for a moment, then come back. And that even goes for like Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's that aiming and shooting function. Not that I expect it to be the quality of a first-person shooter, kind of like what you alluded to when we were playing. But I don't know. It's just missing a little something for me to where I don't think I'll be committing to it. But, it's fun to try and fun to get in on it for a little bit. But, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you never got to like the rockets and the lasers from Iron Man, which I found myself using way more than the repulsors, which took a long time. The thing I loved, especially with the lasers, because I just love lasers, is I got a set of lasers or a set of gauntlets or something that allowed them to have pin particles. So if I kept it, I leveled it up so it did more damage the longer I held it on a person, and it would like intensify the beam, and then it would shrink them down to like a smaller size because I was using the pin particles, because I was using like the Ant-Man stuff. So like I had this red laser that I was just kind of like shrinking people with, and I was like, and he'd take like this big dude, and I was like, oh, it's a little guy, and then you can go like kind of kick him and stuff. So I think I understand what you're saying. I don't know if it makes a great first impression, but I'm hopeful that it can get better and is better later on in the game. I think there's some technical stuff in there. It does seem like when everything's going off, the frame rate starts to drop like just crazy. Like it falls off a palm tree like a coconut. You know what I mean? It's just like, you're like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? And so it's very much bigger and bombastic than something like Gotham Knights, where that's much more kind of like coordinated and kind of quiet. This is like, we're the Avengers, we're blowing everything up, and you're like, okay. So yeah, I know what you mean. I guess for me, I kind of enjoyed like playing with other people and just like, not mind numbing, but just like when I got into the groove with Iron Man, I used his rockets a lot too, where it would kind of auto aim for me, or I would have somebody kind of highlighted at a distance, and I would just hit over and Y or triangle would be on PlayStation, and he just kind of shoots off a rocket, and the rockets would do a lot of damage. And you can get like homing rockets later on too, where like you can like lock on to a bunch of people and shoot them off, and then if they're on smaller enemies, it will like bring them up into the air, I think, and then blow them up. Like Iron Man, I think Iron Man's the most technical that I played with besides like Black Widow, whereas like Hulk felt really slow, and I think they meant to do that, but at the same time they tried to make everybody's like jump and movement the same. So like if you're Black Widow and you're swinging and I'm Iron Man and I'm flying over the top of you, we move at like the same speed. But I'm Iron Man, it's like Hulk. Like no one should be able to keep up with like the jumping and speed of like a full bore Hulk, right? But I think they didn't want to have like certain characters like rise to the top, and people like they like look at their percentages and they're like, nobody's playing as these characters because their movement sucks. Which with Hulk, the whole like wall running, the wall running, wall jumping, wall climbing thing with Hulk feels really weird. I totally agree with you on that. I was like, oh, they're gonna give him like Titanfall stuff, and then it was like he jumps to it and then you jump off of it. I was like, No, I was like, just bounce off it.
Which is okay, I get it, but I want it to be more fluid and quick. Like he jumps to that ledge and he's jumping immediately when I hit it, not like he jumps and then it's like a pause and then you hit it again and he goes. It's like, man, I just want it to be, because there's so much action going on. I feel like if you had that more fluidity and quickness to it, it would feel more right, like, damn, oh, yeah, and there were moments where I was like, oh yeah, get some, like I would get into it, but in the customization, like you're talking about, especially with Iron Man, the characters get better as you progress, and I experienced that a little bit with Hulk because I played him probably the most in a little bit of Iron Man, but yeah, I know, I just. Maybe I'll see how it develops. I know you're kind of, you're in on it. You're going to probably pursue it when it releases and all. And
for the channel, I do it for the channel.
And maybe I'll hear more about it that'll compel me to pull the trigger. But as it sits right now, I just don't think it has enough legs for me to commit. But my style. Obviously I'm more Euro gamer, whatever, Call of Duty, mainstream, whatever. But I also. Like I talk about Gotham Knights, I didn't see a lot of that. I mean, it's just what you had, and that was enough to kind of get me to go, man, this is a lot more my style. Like it's kind of, it just means more, the cooperativeness, as opposed to like you just load in with a couple of randoms and then you and a buddy and you just go into this mission. It's like go from here to there, take out this group, and go from here to there, take out this group. But it's a little more just like fast-paced cannon fodder, see how many repetitive people you can take down kind of thing, and you beat it, yeah, I know there's more to it to that because there is a bit of a storyline and stuff like that, but yeah, I just don't think it suits me as well as what Gotham Knights looks like it will.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough. Well, like I said, I'm still hopeful for it, but I want to see the actual full game, and maybe the story will be super compelling by itself, and that alone I'll be like, wow, that felt worth the money to me. And now it's also going to be games as a service, because I've said this in the past, I would love to have a games as a service game I continually like to play and don't have to rebuy. I'm looking at you, Destiny. I love how Destiny feels, but if I have to shoot another servitor in the face, which is those big floating sphere eyeball things, I was going to lose my mind. But I know we've got people out there like Fragden, shout out to Fragden, who still loves Destiny 2. He loves these games. I love that you love them. I just don't. Those games didn't speak to me over time, and I'm hoping that Avengers isn't like I play it for a month and a half, and I'm like, all right, where's Cyberpunk? Like my watch, like Cyberpunk. And again, they could supplement that if they just put in Ghost Rider, because they had a leaked list and he wasn't on there. Come on, guys, it's money on the table. He has a flaming motorcycle, for goodness sakes. Is that the problem? Would he be just too fast and too powerful? Probably. Like, that's why they didn't put him in. They're like, he's too intimidating, honestly. They're like, he just penance stares all the robots, and they're all like, we feel bad. Why were we programmed to have souls? It's just like, come on. Yeah, I'm still hopeful. Either way, I'm glad you tried it out just a little bit and could form an opinion. So that way you could be like, yeah, I played it, tried it. There you go. But yeah, that's it. As far as time killers, right? Unless you have anything else.
Caught up on the most recent season 5 of Lucifer,
and
only 8 episodes, which more to come. It sounds like.
Oh, really?
They right at the end, more episodes coming soon. I was like, yeah. I know you kind of talked about Lucifer. You kind of fell off kind of early on. It was kind of like, it felt like repetitive. Who's the villain of the week kind of a thing. And it's always a crime to investigate. Well, it gets more in depth and there's more to the storyline, and there's a overarching villain that kind of plays a part in the later seasons, which I enjoy. But then the investigations that the detective and Lucifer do together, it's always kind of a metaphorical or like an imprint on what he's going through at the time or what she's going through. And it's kind of interesting how they write those storylines. And it seems basic at first, but then you realize there's a complexity to it that's somewhat enjoyable. And the way the characters develop towards the later seasons is cool. It's interesting. And I just love the different take on the whole heaven and hell thing.
Sure.
It's kind of fresh.
Yeah, totally.
And I enjoy that. Plus, I think that Tom Ellis, I think he's something special. I think he's genuinely a good actor, and he was the right choice for that role. He's captivating. He does a good job. So, I know a lot of people, I think, don't really like the detective much for some reason, but I mean, she's all right. I think she suits the role well, but some people find her a little lackluster, I guess, maybe.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. It's an okay season. I feel like, I thought it was their last season for a moment, and I was like, wow, this doesn't seem to be
ramping up
grand as I thought it would be for the final season, but it ends on quite the note. But yeah, I don't know. I like that show, so I've been killing time with that. And then there's something else, Jimmy.
What was it?
Next week, I can't remember what it was.
That's okay. Just think about it. Think about it for a while, and if it comes back to you.
So our next segment,
coming to you from the remote headquarters of CR, we're gonna segue right on here, Jimmy. This is the time we'd like to get into questions and community feedback.
That's right. I thought you were gonna throw it to me and be like community feedback, and I would go and questions, but why would we do that? This is more fun this way. But yeah, we do actually have a good question. It's a bit of a hard-hitting question, and I appreciate it. But this one comes in from my boy, Zora Caviar. Zora, you're great. This comes in from Discord. He said, I'd like to hear your take on the sexual misconduct allegations at Rocksteady and how it may or may not affect your hype levels for Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. So, for those who don't know, unfortunately, there have been some sexual allegations, misconduct allegations that have been levied at Rocksteady. Basically, this is how, from what I understand, it was towards the women who were working there, and 10 of the 18 who were apparently affected by this have come forward to talk about it. And also, it's more of like, they even said that it wasn't everybody at the office doing this. It was just a few bad apples, I guess was the terminology here. And unfortunately, I feel like we're hearing more and more of this. I think it's no surprise to anybody that we don't really stand for any of that sort of thing. But it seems to be cropping up more and more with more so individuals, not so much like actual workplaces. For video game places, it seems to be the more controversial stuff is usually like the crunch, like the last month or two or whatever they're working their people like 20-hour days or something, like insane stuff like that. It's really unfortunate, and I hope that basically getting more light and attention on these things makes it way, way harder and almost impossible for anybody else to ever do this to people, because that's not right, it's not fair, and that it should never be tolerated. I don't know if that's something I think about, like with the art, and it's so hard to like separate the art from our modern conscious, right? Like of like knowing what's going on behind the scenes with things. I was talking about the other day, is like if you like a famous actor and you found out recently that they're just like a horrible person and you find out all these horrible stories about them, does that affect how you've enjoyed their performances or the movies or the TV shows or whatever they've worked on in the past? Does that affect you? Because if it does, then sure. All I hope is that because it's such a big profile game, that they will take it, as seriously as anyone should take it, but it should show that this is something that's ubiquitous or ever present in things like this. I don't know if it obviously will affect my feelings towards the game a little bit, because nothing survives in a vacuum. But at the same time, I still hope for all the people who poured their heart and soul into the game that it can still be something that's appreciated, if it is in fact something that's good, and I hope that the people who were affected by this stuff can continue or find work somewhere else, and that the people who do this stuff aren't, essential people. Like, even if they are, they should still be, chastised, reprimanded, punished, and all this stuff, and probably fired, because this is not something that should continue, especially if Rocksteady is going to be this like beloved company that makes these games for so long. So yeah, I don't like that. But then again, it's like, it just, there's a lot of these problems that we keep hearing more and more about, which is good because we're hearing about them as opposed to them just going on for years without us doing anything. But I don't know. I guess it'll affect how I feel about it. That doesn't mean I wouldn't get the game, though. I think a lot of people still get the game. And the people who made who've come forward and talked about this said, don't boycott the game. Don't boycott the game. We just need to shed light on this. I think that's smart because they don't want to throw their other coworkers who've done nothing but work really hard and treat them well, for years under the bus, for all this work they did. And they're like, I didn't do that and I work here. So yeah, I just say, make an example out of them. Terminate the people. If you find out if there's actually this really did happen, and it did, then terminate these people, make examples out of them. And so the more this happens, it's kind of like piracy, Joe. Gotta hang them out to dry. You gotta just show them in the harbor or in the cove. You show them hung there like at the beginning of Black Pearl. It's just like pirates, be warned, just like that. But metaphorically, obviously, we don't need to actually hang people. But yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't like to necessarily comment on things like this unless I know the details. But
yeah, exactly.
I agree with what you said. I mean, stuff like that needs to be taken seriously. And what was the sexual misconduct in the workplace? I mean, is it, police involvement, or is it just lewd comments where they should just be terminated and get the hell out kind of a thing? But was there actually, physical action or things of that nature? Well, then, police involved and terminated, et cetera, et cetera. So get what they deserve. But there's no place for that, in the world, like be an adult.
Yeah.
Be an adult and and I don't know. I'm kind of a zero tolerance kind of person. That's why I make jokes about the whole if I was Superman, I wouldn't be so nice.
Yeah, exactly. Joe's like, what allegations? He flies over there and lasers people. They're like, those are the wrong people. Like,
I'm kind of more of a judge, jury, executioner type of person. Sure. As wrong as that is, I know it's not right, but I don't know. And some of it maybe has relation to my line of work where I just, I deal with a lot of people and most great people, but some you just, it just soils your, how do you want to say, soils your impression of the world.
Of humanity. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, stop wasting the oxygen. You know what I mean? And I hate to have that outlook, but I get a little, I don't have depression issues or anything, and that's no joke, but I'm sometimes I'm a little black and white in that way, and I don't know, communist almost. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I'm somewhere in the higher branches of a company like that, freaking making an example of them, I'm like, yeah, it's not just some little press release. We apologize to those affected.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously,
none of that.
I'm like
PR BS.
I'm like, we are a zero tolerance company. This kind of crap does not happen. Done. Boom. These people are terminated. They've been prosecuted, et cetera, et cetera. Make an example of them, but also, making an example of yourself or your company, and let people know that your core values are of the utmost importance, and that sort of thing. So I hope, I haven't looked into it at all, but I hope that's how they approach it, and the things that they release and stuff like that reflect that same kind of attitude. But geez, serious one there.
I know, exactly. Well, I was just thinking, like, if people, I don't know if just people weren't taught the golden rule. I was taught this, and for some odd reason, it stuck with me. And since I've seen it, and it was plastered on a little poster or banner in my gym when I was a kid in elementary school. And I remember just seeing this always there. It's like, treat people the way you want to be treated. It's a privilege to get to work at these places, all right? It's not a right. Also, it's a privilege to work with these other people. And, like, the fact that humans can get together and, like, not fight over food and water and resources and make art the way we do, that's a pretty amazing thing. And people take that for granted a lot. And these places are really creative spaces. And people can't be creative if they're feeling threatened. And, like, your product is going to suffer if there are people who are working on your thing and they are, like, walking on eggshells and they can't talk to people because they just are afraid to talk to a person because they don't want the interaction to be bad, or they don't want that person to, like, hit on them or try to, like, molest them or whatever it's going to be. Like, it's just not. It's not good. It's not good at all. So like, can we just, guys? This is from me. Just cut it out, all right? For God's sakes, like it's just, please. It's not that hard. Just like, I don't know, for maybe just like 1 second, think before you act. I know it's a hard concept. I know a lot of people just want to go write and just do and tweet and all that stuff, but just deep breath, let it go. Think about how your actions affect other people. That's all I hope.
And the horrible part about that is, Jimmy, you shouldn't even have to think about things like that, or it shouldn't even be a thought,
No, it's so frustrating. But like, people are, and that's the thing. I was lucky to be raised the way I was, and obviously that's a very biased standpoint from my own personal upbringing. But like, not everybody has the same exposure and just upbringing and rearing that everybody else has, obviously. But if you could just try to remember that, everybody comes from a different place. That shouldn't excuse bad behavior, but it should hopefully force people who do those bad things to hopefully just take a step back and think about it. And these people, if this stuff happens, and this is at any place, this is in the games, movies, any workplace, if it's if it's at Apple, or if it's at Caterpillar, wherever it is, it doesn't matter. It's not okay anywhere. Like, it's like, come on, like,
did you say Caterpillar or diesel power?
Joe is gonna get excited about that one. But yeah, I just hate to hear that it keeps happening, and I'm really hopeful that kind of stuff, along with this kind of crazy crunch thing that we hear every game studio seem to go through in the last 2 months of a game's development, I'm just like, there's got to be better ways to manage stuff. Like, I don't understand.
Construction.
Yeah.
Hey, you got 3 months to remodel the school. Why isn't it done yet?
Yeah, and you're like, well, I thought we
wanted to gut and redo the whole thing in 3 months. I mean, geez.
Exactly. Well, that's
anyway. Oh my God, I'm talking about work. I need to stop.
No, well, I was thinking about this too, like video games, and this is kind of like a tangent. Like, it's weird to think of like what makes a great AAA game now, and how many people get employed by making games, which is wonderful. But like, it's so crazy to think of like what consists of like a full game to us now, as opposed to the past, and how many people need to work on a game to make a full AAA game. Like, how many, like, you get all the people who are the designers and the artists, and then there's like the coders, and there's like the musicians and the actors, and like like all these producers and all these things. It's just like, oh, like it's just, there's a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, and all of them should be respectful, because if not, we're going to give Joe superpowers and he's going to come for you, and we can't be held responsible for what Joe does, because
I'm judge, jury, and executioner. You can't hold me accountable for shit.
Yep, I am Dr. Frankenstein, and he is my monster, and I unleash him upon the world, and guess what? He's not afraid of fire, baby. He loves fire. Yes. But anyway, great question. Thank you for writing it. And like Joe said, we don't usually touch on this stuff. We don't know all the details, and that's kind of coming out as we're talking about this. But it's a great question to ask about, like, if that stuff affects the way you perceive art. And I love you that question to anybody else too.
And I didn't really answer the question, but to a certain degree, I think it leaves an imprint on me. Like, man, the thing is it's a small group, it's not the entirety of the company or the entire team that worked on it. So I don't necessarily look on the media that we consume as like a soiled byproduct of shit. There's more to it than that. So I don't necessarily associate it so much. So yeah, that's kind of my answer, I guess. It's a little disconnected for me.
Yeah. So. Well, it's like, I think back to like a show I used to really enjoy, The Cosby Show. I really liked it, and I think there's a lot of good stuff in there, but that's just not playing anywhere ever again. So it's just kind of like, it's like, oh man, and I get it. I understand it. I understand PR wise why they're not going to show that stuff. But if we found out some really horrible stuff about Kelsey Grammer, and the guy has been through the ringer, but we found out some just really horrible things about him, atrocious things, I would probably still love Frasier, because while he put himself into that role and there's other people who were in there, it's a separate thing. Would I think about it sometimes? For sure. But it's the same way I think in some respects, like when I watch it now, John Mahoney, who's his dad in that show, he's gone now. It'd be like, I'm adding on this stuff that's auxiliary. Not that those two things are, one-to-one comparison, but when I watch the show, I wouldn't be constantly thinking about that. So when I play the Suicide Squad game, I probably won't be thinking about that the whole time. Will it be something that I think about sometimes? For sure. But I just hope that it is an example and it can they can learn from it, and other places cannot do this. Please. And Rocksteady shouldn't do this. Come on, guys, please. You're Rocksteady, for God's sakes. It's not like it's just like please, can we just have one place that makes things that isn't problematic? Like, just like, I just want to be able to like something in this crazy world, Joe, and not be worried about it. Anyway, everybody go watch Tenet in theaters. Brought to you by... No, I'm just kidding. I kid. But that movie's coming out. It's in theaters. Can you believe it? I sure can't. Joe, can you?
I don't even know what it is.
It's the Christopher Nolan one. Time moves backwards.
Not a clue.
I can't believe you don't know about Tenet. Oh, that's great. Good. I love it. That's all right. You should look up a trailer. I think you'd like it.
Tenet.
Tenet. T-E-N-E-T. Tenet. It's a palindrome. Anyway, thank you for the hard-hitting question. I hope we have not completely ostracized ourselves and made ourselves look like complete fools. Basically, we have zero tolerance policy for it, and it should not be allowed. There we go. That's our stance, Joe. My stance. It's our stance. There you go.
Okay.
All right, Joe. And with that, that's all we're gonna have time for today. I thought it was gonna be a quick show. Joe, you had a lot of feelings on these things, and I'm excited about it.
Sure.
But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you guys ever have a question or a topic or a thought or a feeling or whatever else, and any of the things we talked about here today, I would love to hear your thoughts on them in the comments and whatnot. But just tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast, because you can find us over on Twitter. You know that one? It's a little site people use sometimes. You can find us at GoCritical, or I'm at JimmyGood013. I'd love like a really good... like just some Deathstroke stuff. I thought for flipping sure we'd see Deathstroke somewhere, and I was so depressed, Joe. I was so depressed. Anyway,
they can find me at Lever_627. I know we kind of end on we want feedback from the community. Something that we talked about this week.
Oh yeah,
something I think would be interesting. Tweet at us or make a post or a question for next week or just some sort of feedback, questions and community feedback for that segment. Let's hear about your thoughts on Justice League. I know we've talked about the movie back when it came out and all that, and we've spent quite a bit of time on it. We touch on it from now on time and time again. But now with the Snyder cut, look into that a little bit and see what they're showing about it. It's going to be out on HBO Max, 4 1-hour installments. Good or bad? Excited for it or not?
Yeah.
Do you think what they did with the actual theater release of the Justice League, was it a wrong move? Should they have paused for a minute and maybe dissected this a bit more and allowed Snyder to kind of get re-involved after his happenings? I want to know thoughts on this. And I honestly think I'll probably do like a trial and watch these, because I'm actually really interested. So I guess, for next week's segment, questions and community feedback, I'd like to hear a little bit of input from you guys on that very thing.
Yeah,
I think that'd be interesting to hear.
Do you not have HBO anymore?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. And it was only HBO Now. I think for HBO Max, you have to do something different. I don't know, different subscription.
Yeah, the little names attached to all these things, it gets so confusing. Like anytime I see anything, because I was looking at like some of the Adobe stuff, because I want to get some of the different, potentially some of the other like editing software things. And like when you see something, it's like Photoshop Elements. You're like, oh, that's not like the real thing, because it's got like the little name. You're like, it'd be like going to see Avengers and they're like Avengers Light, and you're like, why is the light spelled Lite? You're like, don't worry about it. It's like, but that's a great point. If anybody has any feedback on the Snyder cut from the trailer we've seen, or just the way they're implementing it, or the fact that you have to get HBO Max to watch it, we want to know. Post them, or post them in the Discord. I leave a long comment. I will read long comments. I will do it. But anyway, if you want to support us on other platforms, you can find me. I'm streaming at twitch.tv/critical reviews. You can find that in the links down below. We also have an Instagram that we've been posting stuff on. I like to post little stories and things, little news updates. So if you want to see stuff really quick with little things, little stickers. I try to make that fun.
Support on Spreadshirt.
Spreadshirt, exactly. Yes, Joe's so good about that. Yeah, Spreadshirt, critical dash reviews, or just look up critical reviews. You find over there. Pick up the Vibe Vampire t-shirt. Mine will be here soon after. I gotta get it. I keep forgetting to order it, but I'll have it, and then I'll be like, look at it. But also we have a Patreon, so go check us out over there if you want to subscribe and or donate to us over there. Which for $5 and up, you can get this podcast a day or usually 2 days early. Sometimes 2 days early if I'm leaving for the weekends. I'm like, it's up on Friday. So or honestly, for people who are just like listening to us, and thank you to everyone who's supporting us on Patreon, the $5 and up ones, you'll see your name at the end here too. All of you people, I love you, thank you. And you'll get your name over here. But just let us know if you're like listening. Like I've talked about this before, there are people listening to us on other like streaming platforms now because we're like an audio only version. So if you want to let us know how it sounds, if you want all of them, I asked people the other day, Joe, if they want me to put all the podcasts on, and I had like 2 votes, and people were like, yes, I'm gonna need more votes than that because there's like 190 like 1 or 4 more that I have to put on there, so it would take a long time, and it's not just like a drag and drop situation. It's a little more complicated than that. I know it's my fault. I should have been making this audio for a long time, but anyway, if you're listening to us on one of those versions, if you'd like the past, all of them, let me know. And also just let us know if it sounds good, if you're enjoying it, if you like it. I think we're on Spotify and Google and maybe iTunes. Try to look us up, and if you can review an app and let us know, that would be excellent. So, or if you just found us through one of those things, just tweet at us, because I thought if someone's like, I've never heard of you before, but I found you on iTunes or something, I'd be like, sweet, that's great. Anyway, Joe, thank you for being on. It was a pleasure talking to you about DC Fandome.
It's been my absolute pleasure coming to you from the remote headquarters of CR.
Yes.
Good evening.
Our satellite location. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye. Nice. Woo, we did it.